Nicole, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
How are you guys?
Great.
Good.
So as you can see from the placard, Anne is the Project Digital Asset Librarian at Emory University, and Nicole is the Head of Digital Scholarship and Technology Services at Vassar College. And both of them were at the library company, and now they're doing all sorts of other amazing things. And I am continually grateful for the dedication they've shown this project. And given that so many of us are turning to online resources right now as we're sequestered away in our homes, it just seemed appropriate to have a session specifically about this incredibly rich digital edition that Washoya was talking about at the end of the last session. So I wanted to give Anne and Nicole an opportunity to share ghostriver.org. And my understanding is that Anne is going to sort of show us the website writ large, and then Nicole is going to talk to us about the digital edition, the actual online book. So let me turn off my screen share. Look, we're all together again. And Anne, I will let you drive now.
Great, thank you. Well, I appreciate it. This has been a great symposium, and I know that it's sort of been an uphill lift for you with Zoom being Zoom, but it's very exciting. I hope I don't ruin it with a live demo.
What could go wrong?
So I came into the Ghost River project super late in the game. I think I formally started on it in June of 2019, and the website and the exhibition and the graphic novel all launched in November. So I came into the project real late on, and I think that actually was a great help in building the website, because I worked at the library company, so I had some idea of what was going on, but then I could sort of approach it as an outsider and go like, okay, it's hard to explain Ghost River in one sentence that's not an extremely long sentence. So how do we make this wealth of resources available? So let me share my screen and we can start a drive-in. All right, and Will, do jump in if something has gone horribly wrong, please. So Nicole and I split up the work in part because the project had changed a little and roles had changed. And my part of it was essentially what doesn't make it into the graphic novel / book physically. Nicole really focused on the book stuff, and I want to give her plenty of time to talk because the work that she did is outstanding and definitely worth a big look. If y'all want to drive along, ghostriver.org is the website, and it should have everything in the book and more, because one of the great things about coming into this project late is that there was so much content. There was video, there was pencils and inks from Washoya, there was this annotated script. I really had this just like wealth of things to take in and learn about the project, even coming in way late. And I wanted to make sure that other folks that were coming in were getting those same things. With that, of course, getting to the book is important, but there are some things that don't make it in the book, and I do want to show those off. One of those is several teachers, particularly teachers that were in the Gilder Lehrman teaching seminar, donated lesson plans that are really outstanding at different grade levels, and those are available for folks to download or access online. They use Ghost River, they talk about the Conestoga massacre. They're really great, and they are available on ghostriver.org. And also, of course, through the site, we wanted to focus on and make sure that art from Washoya, particularly art that maybe didn't make it in the book itself, got shown off, because there's really some great works in progress. There are also historical materials. I'm not sure how much Will talked about Digital Paxton, but this project sort of came from a project before it that dealt with the historical materials around the Conestoga massacres. And a lot of those are available through the Digital Paxton project, but we wanted to make these things even more available, sort of in a quick way through the website without giving them too much space in a place that was really supposed to be dedicated to the graphic novel itself. So these are all here, but they are also all available on Digital Paxton. And a big part of this project was digitizing and describing and making available different pieces from many, many different archives. Library companies, just one of them. Another one is that several people donated essays or were on the advisory committee and wrote essays for this project. They're at different levels. There's a student essay in here. There are great essays to look at and go through. I invite people to read them through. I know that just sort of mentioning that they're there is not the same as reading them. And I apologize that I only have my one monitor at home, so I'm sort of juggling as I go along. There's also, it's been mentioned a few times, the absolutely amazing annotated script, which is available online as well as in the print edition. We have the actual image with its alt text behind it. We have the actual script as it appears, and then the annotations from several different people on the advisory committee, and Lee, and Wishoyo, and Will. And that is for the entirety of the graphic novel. And I really, really recommend people read this. It is fascinating. It's really a great way of looking behind the work. I know, Will, you mentioned briefly earlier on that you really wanted to see this in more academic works where people sort of don't obscure themselves as authors. And I absolutely agree. At this point, I just want to see an exhibition that sort of has the author notes just in with each piece.
Yeah, and I will add that you've done a really marvelous job using the web here, because what we have in the book feels really compressed. You don't necessarily get readable thumbnails of the pages. You just get like a very sort of small script, and then you get all the comments in the printed book. What's nice about this is you get the actual page, you get the script, which was written to inform what the page looks like, including the art direction, and then as well the comments on that process. So I think that this is honestly the best way to explore the annotated script, and you can even do keyword searches on this page because it's one long page.
Oh, good. A part of the goal is that there were a lot of community accessibility goals. You had several communities that weren't necessarily the ones that you had identified for Digital Paxton that you wanted for Ghost River. And part of this was making sure that folks that were accessing the internet but didn't have like particularly robust internet access could get at things like the annotated script, which meant like not bogging it down in things that would be particularly slow to load, particularly when you have sort of the 60 pages of images and art. So that was part of the work. And something that went into that as well is that there is alt text and transcripts and captions for everything. And that is because of the amazing help of Katie Maxwell at the library company. I could not have done that alone. It was just a huge lift.
So for lay people, what does that do for us?
So a graphic novel is very visual, sort of by its definition. And for a lot of historic pieces, particularly like digital humanities online, there tends to be a real visual push. It's about like, oh, we're going to digitize the historic thing, which means visually capture it for the web. And maybe we'll describe it in text, but we're doing it in a very like library-centric kind of way. So for this project and for web design in general, a big part of that is not just using a system that's good with accessibility tools, it's actually putting in the work to describe visually what is there. For a graphic novel, that means using things like the stage directions, essentially, to say what's happening panel to panel, because sequential art is sequential for a reason. You want to go from one to one to one. So there was a lot of work in that. Also making sure the historic materials, which can be harder to read because they're many, many different sizes. And when you translate something to the web, that just ends up the size of your screen, regardless of its original size. So having those transcriptions ready was a pretty big deal. So that was a big lift for this project. And all of the videos, including the documentary, all have full captions as well, and are available on YouTube. Some of those interviews, which I found really important, but didn't get to make it into the book because that's not how videos work, were from folks from the Circle Legacy Center. And there are a series of 10 of them, plus one interview with Curtis. And I wanted to make sure those made it online because they are really excellent. And I do recommend folks take a look at them if they'd like to. There are a couple I can play. I'm not sure how well playing video over this has gone So I will leave that up to you, Will. It is your show.
I mean, worst case scenario, we just crash the whole darn thing again.
I'm so worried I'm gonna do that.
I've already gotten it out of the way. Don't worry.
So here's one, and we'll see if I break it. And I'm sorry in advance if I do.
All of us through different areas, but as Native people, wherever we go, we want to find our own people. That tribal feeling, that longing for your own people doesn't go away. And when I look at who I've found, who I've met, they are family. We help each other. We are survivors. We support. When I look at history, trying to erase that, you may take and remove us, but wherever we go, we are still going to find each other, and we are going to build communities across this United States. We are resilient, and the only way that we're going to correct the wrongs is through meeting people like yourself who will take our words, put that out there, and make these wrongs right.
There's a street in Harrisburg named Paxton Street. It's like an honor to them, which for us is an atrocity because it was murder. It was a massacre. And in history, when you read about this, you'll hear it was a war. And if they were successful, they conquered. For us, it was destruction. And
So there's two. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I encourage people to. So those are all just a few of the things available on ghostriver.org that aren't the actual graphic novel and all of the extra content that comes with that graphic novel. So that is just a couple of things. Is there anything else I should cover for you, Will?
Well, I mean, the one thing I might ask you to do is just show the acknowledgments page, because it gives you a sense of the scope of participants here. I feel like we've done our best to sort of gesture towards all of the folks that made this possible, but it's inadequate at best. And each one of those is an accordion, meaning that they can open up so you could see all of the different people who are involved. I mean, even like copy editors, those are just librarians at the library company who looked at the script at different stages. You have all of the folks from the Circle Legacy Center. You have folks from Indigenous Comics. I mean, every one of these people was involved to a different degree. And I think that the project's success is as much theirs as it is mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and an important part of this project is that no single person did this. It's a huge community effort. Even coming in late, it was like, wow, there's so many people. There's so many voices.
And I'm really grateful in the way that you've managed to capture, because there's a lot of information here, and it's a difficult story to tell, as something I run into all the time when I'm trying to talk about this with media. And you've done a really nice job, you and Nicole together, really building a thoughtful entry point that makes sense to someone other than like an early Americanist academic, you know?
Yeah, and that's the hope, right? I really like being surprised by work with historic materials, and this is a surprising project, so that's really exciting. All right, don't think I've missed too much, but of course I'm not trusting my work from home brain too well right now. So let me know if I've missed something terrible, but if not, I will unshare my screen and let Nicole show off the very, very cool digital graphic novel.
Sounds great.
Great, so let me see if I can share. And share my Google Chrome.
And while Nicole's doing that, I want to remind everybody that's watching from home, I guess we're all watching from home, you can submit your questions to the Q&A. So if you have any specific questions about the digital edition, they're probably better than whatever I'm going to ask Anne and Nicole. So I encourage you to chime in.
Great. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much to Anne for all the work she did on what's really the landing page, the first part of this project people engage with. I was fortunate enough that although I left the library company in July for Vassar, I was still able to stay on as a consultant after having been the project manager for quite some time for this project. In the project manager role and anticipating my role in creating the digital edition, I'd attended a number of workshops or meetings with Pew that really dove into the idea of accessibility and knowing your audience and sustainability of digital assets. So all of those things really came into play when I was considering the platform and the tools and the various plugins and things that I would use for this project. We had to consider multiple format distribution, offline access, in being interactive, dynamic, and sustainable, of course, long-term, and a way to encapsulate this as it's used now for the future. The platform that I really considered the most adept at covering all of these areas is WordPress. It's really known as being the most accessible. It's great for accessibility via readers, screen readers, and other devices for adaptability. It also has a number of plugins that really gave me the flexibility I needed to really make it engaging. So some of the plugins, in particular, the one that was the most useful was called Vision Interactive, or the Vision plugin. And this was an image mapping plugin that allowed me to create points on the images, which were JPEGs that I uploaded of each page of the book, so that you could click on an area of that image and have something pop up that allowed not only video, but also images and captions and the variety of interactives that we wanted to embed into this project. There are a number of plugins that allow you to embed and make clickable areas for video, but not so much for an image with a caption, which is really the bread and butter of an archival institution. You want to make sure you get those primary documents in there and put the graphic novel into context with history and with the collections at the library company and other institutions that collaborated with us. So just to give a sense of what this all looks like, showing you here is the landing page for the book. You have a number of options. You can download the entire book as a PDF or an EPUB. That allows for offline access, screen readers, OCR text reading, download it on your Kindle, your whatever device that you want. And then of course there's the actual interactive online digital edition, which is replicated in the gallery. It was encapsulated on its own portable server so that it could be run in the gallery without internet, so that you could also engage with it via a touch screen in the gallery. So I am going to, rather than click Read Ghost River, I'm going to go to a page that I've already brought up. So this is about the third or fourth page. And as you can see, you can go forward and back using these buttons here. And throughout the graphic novel, you'll see these black circles with an eye. That's for more information. And as you can see, when you pass your mouse over, it says more information and encourages you to click. And these are throughout the entire book. So just as an example, here's one that's a video, and right within your browser, you can play the video.
A longhouse in any village setting would also be for community gatherings. I mean, you got to think, they didn't have televisions and things like that to do on a Saturday night, so everyone gathered in the longhouse and had a social gathering.
So there you see where the video is putting the longhouse into context and making that connection with the person viewing the book in today's world. Now this is really critical when you're trying to present this to K through 12 or for high school and college audiences for those age groups, or even to the parents sharing this with their children, or just lay persons that don't really understand, they've never been exposed to this type of history. So that was really critical, that we had all these videos that really put each frame into context. Now, we also wanted to include primary documents. So here is a map of Conestoga Manor, and it includes the bibliographic citation, the caption here. And it also has a link out to Digital Paxton. So if you wanted a more historical context, you could click that and go into Digital Paxton and really do a deep dive into the history of this document and its role within the greater story. Let's see what else we've got on here. Again, here is another document, and which is also available in Digital Paxton. And when you go to Digital Paxton, you can also see this image in the larger view. So if you wanted to really dive in and see the detail within what I believe is a lithograph, you could do that on Digital Paxton. Let's see, what's this one? Another document. So as you browse through, and you can just click next and go to the next page, you're offered up all of this valuable extra content, videos and primary documents. So Will, did you have anything else you wanted me to cover, or any questions I should answer?
Well, I mean, the one thing that I would highlight here is that in addition to summoning all the great resources that we already had put online through Digital Paxton, which was that sort of first digital project that we all got to work on together, the video clips in there are totally unique in the sense that you won't find those clips in the documentary films. So this is additional footage that we couldn't squeeze into that 11-minute making of or the 1-minute trailer for the project. So it really is new material, or material that might not otherwise have a place to live. And I think situating it where it is contextually useful is a really, it took a lot of work by a lot of people. I know that we had a great intern, Emma, who helped us go through all of these resources. We had Katie and Anne helping to, write down the alt text and the transcriptions, and then even just figuring out where they would fit on the page and how to tag. And I know that that was something that you probably pulled your hair out over.
Yeah, I have to say that was really the most time-consuming part of this project, was for every single image, for every single pop-up, there is a full transcription of what's happening. There is alt text with bibliographic content, and there's also visual descriptions. So all of this data, which we call metadata, is behind the scenes of this site that you don't even, as a regular user, wouldn't see. But if you had a device which allows for accessibility, a screen reader or whatnot, it would pull on all of that data and make this accessible to people that are have impairments with vision or whatnot, or even accessibility as far as using a computer and the commands and making sure that they can browse through the site easily. All those things were addressed.
We have a question from Widener. Is all the video footage, including additional outtakes of interviews and other observations of the process of creating the graphic novel, being archived and transcribed for future research? As I have it, and you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong on this, Nicole, we've really had to do excerpts because we had a lot of video. We had multiple site trips, and Mangrove Media went out on a special trip to Indigenous Comic-Con in 2018. They went out to Washoya's studio in LA. So there's a lot of footage, and it would just be way too much for us to get out along with everything else for the sort of November 15th.
However, as far as being archived, all of that video that was received by Mangrove Media was put on our servers. Even though it's not accessible to the public, it is archived on the servers and then backed up, and then ultimately cloud backed up. So that's following all of the basic models of preservation. in that way.
That's great.
As well as the
And
website. The website itself is archived in multiple places, as it was when it was launched, so that we have that as an archival copy.
And for further redundancy, I know that Tristan also put it up on AWS. It's on cloud server. So that means that it's faster than it was when we first launched it because of all the image assets, all the video. But it also means that we have just a little bit more redundancy. So everything is, triple, quadruple.
Yeah, and as far as speed,
as I know.
we also implemented software called
So I guess I have a question for the two of you. I mean, you've worked on different parts of this. Right, go ahead.
Sorry, we seem to have a delay all of a sudden. No, I just wanted to note that
Go ahead.
We did consider the issue of load time, and tested a number of caching plugins and image optimizers that compressed images for faster load time, and something called heartbeat control for a real-time communication between the server and the browser to kind of speed up that process. So that was definitely on the front of our minds, is making sure that this was easy to load, because it is a huge amount of content.
Yeah. And when we're thinking about, the function of this site, it really is about opening up access. And if we're thinking about how to get this out into a format, or formats plural, that would make this more accessible to folks that don't necessarily have great broadband. I mean, that's often the case with a lot of reservations. We have to think about, like, okay, there's a sexy version, which is what we're looking at right now, the sort of, double with cheese. And then there's like the single patty, maybe without cheese, which might be the PDF or the EPUB file, which you could put on your Kindle. I'm clearly getting hungry because I'm talking at food metaphors.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I guess, are there any other questions from the audience?
Right now, I'm not seeing any, which means that I get to ask another question to the two of you. Sorry.
It's okay.
So both of you have worked on a lot of different digital projects. How is this one different?
And she's about to talk.
Oh.
You look like you're about to say something. I don't want to talk over you.
I mean, for me, my background is as a digital archivist. My focus in my work is usually on like digital collections, particularly born digital collections, and then digital access systems and reproductions and copyright. So I tend to be on the side of things where the professional standard is to obscure your own role, where you're supposed to sort of like, it's the institution's library. You're not really supposed to put your name on it per se, in such a straightforward way. So this was a project with a lot of different people's names on it, and a lot of different opportunities for people to sort of, there were a lot of places on the website particularly where it was like, oh, I can put everyone's names on this. I can say like, hey, I had help with the alt text, and that was Katie, and she was great. So that's a little different than I think sort of like the more traditional library project per se, at least from my end.
Yeah, I have to say this was a great segue into my new role at Vassar. So we really, as the library company, very rarely touches upon a younger audience, especially high school. So to have to think within that audience and that realm, and how do we reach and make this interesting to high schoolers or undergrad students, was really compelling to me. That was what made it so fun. I think it's to think about this in a less academically strict way, but more of a, how do we make this interactive and fun and visually enticing, and how do we get students of a variety, how do we make sure there's equity as far as lots of students can access this, whether online or offline. Really was a great segue into my role as head of digital scholarship and technology at Vassar, because I'm working with this age group now. So that was really great.
Also, it's a graphic novel, and that's very cool. And I've never gotten to work on anything even close to a graphic novel project before. So, of course, I was jealous of y'all because we all used to work in the same office for about a year and a half.
All three of us buddies. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, are there components of this, you know, aside from the bits that are, you know, kind of unique, but are there components of this that you would like to see emulated or replicated, or that you plan to sort of take and repurpose in different ways in your own work today?
Well, I think this is a really great case study or jumping off point for future similar projects. I'd love to see more graphic novels online. In the research before I implemented the platform, I really didn't find very many, and the ones that I found weren't great. So I would really love for this to be an inspiration to others to make even better resources like this.
And this was not specifically the digital part of the project, but sort of conceptually, the project as a whole is taking a story that is not captured in written records well, or if it is, it's largely obscured through like white Philadelphian politics of the colonial era. And it's saying, can we imagine this history that we have failed to preserve? Because we don't have much in the way of written Conestoga works. We don't have that side of the story. So what I want to see going forward is people taking the chance to see where the archival record has failed us now in storytelling, and challenge it. Like bring those perspectives in, tell those stories. If we just say like, oh, it's not there, so too bad the record's not there, that's really a failure.
And the whole concept of digital storytelling and this particular way of going about it is just really, it was fun, it's inspiring, and I hope I get to work on a project like this again.
Well, I think we've pretty much exhausted your time, though I did give us a little bit of flexibility because I have a few last calls to action that I want to invite our participants to consider. Can I keep you two around for just a little bit while I run through the last 5 slides?
Definitely.
Nicole, if you don't mind unsharing your screen, I will try to share mine and hopefully not bring this whole thing to a grinding halt.
Trying to figure out how to expand this. 1 second. Minimized when I. Okay, why is it not letting me? Let's go to Zoom. No, I don't want to sign in.
I might be able to even do it from my end.
I think you can take over. Let's see.
Stop participant sharing. There we go.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, no problem. So I just wanted to bring up, let's see if I can do this now easily on my end. And does everybody see my calls to action slide? Here, I'll make it larger. So I wanted to think about this in terms of a number of different audiences and levels of engagement. First and foremost, as Anne and Nicole have just outlined, ghostriver.org, it's there, it's free. We want you to use it, we want you to share it, we want you to explore it however it's most convenient for you. So maybe that's this amazing digital edition that Nicole poured herself into, but it could also be the PDF or the EPUB file if you're looking for something to put on your Kindle while you're stuck at home. There's also all of the other resources that Anne has touched upon, and there's a lot more than we could possibly compress into a 30-minute panel. So I encourage you to get lost on it. And if you're in the process of getting lost on that and you're looking for even more diversions, as Anna had alluded to, we have another project called Digital Paxton, which is the labyrinth of all labyrinths. It has 3,000 pages of material, all of which is print quality and free to use as you wish. It's Creative Commons licensed, and we just want you to use it. And that was very much a compliment to my doctoral work, and it started thanks to the support of the library company, and it's really grown in incredible ways. And now we have materials from 24 different libraries and cultural heritage institutions. So it's a great meeting space of cultural heritage sites. So ghostriver.org, digitalpaxton.org, totally free and waiting for you to use and share. Speaking of sharing, we do social media at the library company, and we hope that if you use any of these platforms, it doesn't have to be all three, you include whatever you're finding and you put it out in the world with a specific hashtag. And the reason for the hashtag is that the hashtag Ghost River, all one word, so hashtag Ghost River, all of those get automatically aggregated onto our website, ghostriver.org. We have a little media feed, so it's a really great way of collecting it together. And it also means that if you find something, you have a question, instead of tagging me specifically, if you want to bring it to the whole project, you can just add that hashtag, and I'll make sure that your query gets passed along to the right folks. But as important as getting questions answered, I don't want this to be a top-down experience. I want to hear about what you're discovering, what problems you're encountering in the context of this book, the context around it, the interviews that you're watching from the Circle Legacy Center and beyond. We really want to hear what is exciting to you about the project, and this is one way to do it. Of course, we encourage you to get a copy of the book. Now, all of this is a little provisional right now because Red Planet, which is our publisher, that's Lee Francis's publishing company, has a limited supply right now. And of course, they're not fulfilling orders with a great deal of regularity while we're going through the COVID virus. But you can place an order, and as long as you're patient, it will be coming. I can assure you that. And I would encourage you to order it through them directly because we want to see our Native partners getting the support that they need in these times. So you can order it directly through Red Planet Books and Comics. They also have a lot of other great stuff on that website. I mean, in addition to Ghost River, which is of course what we're talking about today, there are all sorts of other beautiful books and even some prints that Lee was just showing me last night that are all devoted to the COVID virus and native responses to it. So you're talking about prints that you can get for $5 or $6, and every print you buy is really going to support an artist who needs that support. The Library Company of Philadelphia will be reopening eventually. I don't have an exact date for you now, but when it does happen, we will be extending the duration of our exhibition. And even if we only extend it by a couple of weeks, we have a physical brick and mortar store. And we have about, 800 copies of the book on hand. So if you're in Philadelphia and you want to get a copy of the book, as soon as we're open, stop on by and we'll make sure that you get one. And certainly, if you can visit while the exhibition's up, I can't recommend that strongly enough because Washoya's artwork really has to be seen in person. These are all 11 by 17 pages. The spreads are just gorgeous. Seeing them on the walls at a library company are really powerful as an experience. And then finally, for folks that are also in the Philadelphia area, we are circulating the book through the Free Library of Philadelphia. So I don't know if the digital edition is widely circulating yet, but we do have more than 100 copies in print that are moving around all the different branches. So we hope that if you have a branch nearby, request the book and get a copy of it while we're closed. And if you like it, then you could buy a copy for your friends or your family through Red Planet. For my friends in education or those adjacent to it, or if you know a teacher who's looking for a really different and compelling way to teach early American history or settler colonialism, I would encourage them to think about trying to use this book. We have a bunch of different models that they can draw from. As Ron was talking about earlier today, we had about a third of the faculty who attended our teacher seminar in 2019. They wrote their own lesson plans about how they were going to use Ghost River in their classes. And we have brought them all into ghostriver.org. So whether you're teaching 6th grade or AP US history, you have a lesson plan that's ready to go. And we have, I think, 13 to choose from, but we're always looking for more. So those could be anything from really 6th grade all the way through university level. And I am really eager to work with anyone who might have something they want to share. So even if it's not, keyed to Common Core standards, or you don't think it's necessarily in the format that these are, I'm happy to work with you to make it look great. So you have my email address there on this page. It's wfenton@librarycompany.org. I'm pretty darn accessible on social media as well. So don't hesitate to drop me a note if you or a teacher you know wants to contribute to the project. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight the two fantastic artists that you heard from today. Dr. Lee Francis IV and Weshoya Vitre, both of them are all over social media, so you have their credentials right here. But they also have websites. For Lee, the best way to support him is through Red Planet Books and Comics. That isn't just a publishing house and one of the primary vehicles for Native folks to take control of their representations in pop art. It's also, as far as I know, the only Native comic book shop in the country. So you're supporting a brick and mortar store. So anything that looks exciting, whether it's one of those prints or one of those books, I encourage you to order one and share it with your friends and family. And Weshoya is always working on another amazing project. And the best way to trace it, well, first of all, she's very active on Instagram. So you can always see what she's up to there. But you can go to www.weshoya.com and that sort of collects all of the work that she's doing. And as an independent artist, these, like this kind of downturn that we're going through right now is probably most severe for someone like her. And I'm really hoping that all the folks in the library company community can rally to support her in all of the amazing work she does. If you look at her catalog, everything she does is wildly different from the thing before it and really inspirational. And it's really been an honor working with both Lee and Weshoya. So with that, I'm going to bring this webinar to a close. Thank you for forgiving the bumpy start and my faulty Wi-Fi connectivity. I hope that all of you who have made it to this point have enjoyed what you've heard today, and consider my line always open. Please don't hesitate to email me with any questions or requests. So thank you all. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.